everyone, and welcome back to the complete ultimate Voltz tutorial. Now, starting it off today, just remember, this is not my first video. If you want to see the other videos, check out the description. There should be either a playlist or a link to my channel, which you can go through and find the video. And, yeah, that's about it for the start. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? Today we're going to be going over the basics of ICBM, and that kind of thing. So, little thing to note, I'm in my Steve skin, because skins didn't load for some reason. Great job, Minecraft. But, as usual, we're going to grab our handy-dandy little wrench, and we're going to pop over to ICBM here. Now, last episode, we went over all the different bombs. So, I'm going to be showing you their missile counterparts, and we're not going to be launching any, but I'm just going to be giving you a look at all of them, so that if you see one coming towards you, say if you see this coming towards you, this is the conventional missile, which is from the condensed explosive. So, the condensed explosive plus a missile module, which we'll get into later, equals this. And so I just want to make sure that when you see this coming at you, you're not like, oh god, there's a nuclear missile coming for me, I better turn on all my defenses and dump my ME system and run for my life because, oh, nuclear missiles, and it's just one of these. So, this is a conventional, this is a, oh goodness gracious, this is a shrapnel, of course, how could I forget? So shrapnel, incendiary, debilitation, chemical. I'm just gonna pop on this. This is the anvil missile. Don't ever make these. They're utterly useless. That is the repulsive. That is the attractive. Now on to tier 2. So tier 1 is green, tier 2 is red, and tier 3 is blue, and tier 4 is black. So, then you have fragmentation. That was the one that like blew up like the shrapnel and then made the little explosions. You have the contagious, oh goodness gracious, yet again, breaking that, sonic, of course, I always forget this one for some reason, because it doesn't, like, the bomb has speakers on it, right? This doesn't have speakers on it, so you're like, what in the world, right? Well, anyway, this is the breaching missile. If you remember the breaching's pretty cool. And all of the tier 1 missiles have the same missile design, plus, and then just a different top. All the tier 2s have this thing on it. Okay, that's how you know those. And all the tier 3s have, this design, like this type of thing. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, this is the breaching, this is the, rejuvenation, that was what that was. And last but not least, for tier 2, is the thermal barrack, which is thoroughly broken, has a thoroughly broken texture, or not texture, just like there's bits in the wrong place. You see those, they're supposed to be like straight up and down, but instead they're like really weird to the side. It's kind of funny. Anyway, on to the nuclear missile. Yeah, I thought it had. Did it not? Oh. Ah, yes, I'm sorry. I was looking at the yellow for the shape instead of the black. So if you look on that, you can see that there's like a dot, and there's the like nuclear sign right there, so like the dot, and then the black up there, black down there, the triangle type thing. And that's how you know that's a nuclear missile. Basically, if you see any large blue missile that's not one of these little things coming at you, then you're like, oh, okay, I best do something. If you will see any of these coming at you, you're like, oh god, we better do something. EMP missile, it's got like the interesting doodad at the top, like the coil of wire, pretty cool. We got the hypersonic, it's got the big H on it. This is the this is the exothermic, I'm sorry. So why does a fire missile have not only blue on the top, but an H on, oh no, it's an exclamation mark. Anyway, so that's the exothermic, so that's the big super fire one. These have weird symbols on the top, I don't know what. This looks like a portal on the top of this, I don't even know what that, oh goodness, I don't even know what that is. You have the endothermic, the anti-gravitational, the most useless, the second most useless, thing in the game, because you'll actually be defending your enemies if you fire this at them. So it's kind of funny. The ender, which has this really cool ender eye floating on the top, pretty cool. And last but not least, the hypersonic, which for some reason doesn't have, unlike, like, for some reason, the exothermic, which starts with an E, has what you could perceive as an H on it, and the hypersonic, which starts with an H, has whatever this is. I don't even know. Anyway, on to the last two. Not the last two, but... And then on to the last two explosive to that. This is the tier 4s. Only 2 as usual. Antimatter and red matter. So pretty cool designs. I really like them. They got, like, the little fins on them. They're pretty... They're unsymmetrical. I'm gonna have to talk to the mod makers. They're unsymmetrical. Like, first of all, this little triangle right here, this one, that would never work in anything. And we're back. Okay, so gotta love it when your computer just decides to shut down suddenly. It's just no, rip. There goes your computer. Oh, how fun. Yeah, great. Thanks. Anyway, back to this. So, if you didn't understand this, I can understand it if there's one thing on, like, here, if, like, there are these things here, and, or, like, this is sticking out here, and this isn't on this side, because the missile would angle itself so that this points towards the ground. So it would be, the ground would be that way, and this would be flying, you know, that, and the ground would be that way. That would work fine. But this little thing here, this would direct, just a quick little lesson. This would direct air in the wrong direction compared to this side, and it would completely misbalance the missile, and it would kind of just follow the air and die. So that's why that doesn't work. I might have to blubber at the developers about that. Anyway, on to the next couple missiles. So these are all the ones that you can make explosives into, and what you do is you take the explosive and you put it with a missile module and you get the missile. But then you have special missiles. Now, special missiles are ones that do not have an explosive counterpart. So, in this, you have the anti-ballistic missile. Now, what the anti-ballistic missile does is when it is launched, if it detects another missile within 30 blocks of it, it will lock onto that missile and fly directly towards it and hit the missile and blow it up in midair. So this is good for anti-missile defense, and we'll get into how to do that in another episode. I'm going to be doing an episode later about bunker building and how to make good anti-missile defense systems and good missile defense systems and just good systems and tips and tricks on how to make your bunker survive. Anyway, the next one is the cluster missile. Now, what the cluster missile does is about halfway through... what in the world was that? Did you hear the voice crack in there? Anyway, on its way down to its target, when it's a couple hundred blocks away, a couple hundred blocks away from its target, the cluster missile will split into 8 conventional missiles. So the ones way down there, these guys, way down here. And it will split into 8 of them. And the missiles that it splits into, for some reason they fly a lot faster than normal, so it's basically, it blows up in the air, and it splits into all these different missiles, and those missiles go down really quickly and just smash on the base. Cluster missiles are an amazing way of countering anti-missile defense systems, because they separate into their missile, they separate high enough where normal anti-missile defense systems cannot hit them, and then they rain down terror, and the missiles that they rain down are so fast that they cannot be hit. So if you ever want to take out someone, or I personally use this for annoying someone / scaring them, or just making the landscape look horrible, because conventional missiles, while they're not very powerful, this launches 8, and they just kind of boom, 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 all over the place, right? It does a nice amount of damage. And it can't get taken out by anti-ballistic or anti-missile systems. So it's a good way of attacking your enemies if you know that they have lots of anti-missile systems. The next one is the same thing, it's just blue. Now, this is the nuclear cluster missile. And this a couple hundred 100 blocks through its towards its target, from its target, will split into 4 nuclear missiles, and it rains terror down. This is a good way of destroying enemy bases. If you know that there's a base and it's not hundreds of blocks underground, this is the way to go. You fire off a couple of these, it splits into 4 missiles, the next one splits into 4 missiles, you already got 8 nuclear missiles flying for this guy. And his anti-missile systems will not be able to take that out, and it will desecrate him. That's how that works. It's quite cool. I prefer the cluster missiles. They're my favorite type of missile just because they're so good. And they're very underestimated a lot of the times. In order to it is possible to take one out. They are not insanely overpowered. You can destroy them before they separate, but it takes an immense amount of power. Lastly, we have the homing missile. Now, the homing missile is quite cool. It's a tier 1 missile, and it only makes a small TNT explosion. But you can, as I'll demonstrate later, you can set it to track something, or an entity of some sort, and it will fly towards that entity, and it will instantly, and it will kill them. So that's just all the missiles. Now we'll get into what these frame things are, and all that stuff. And how to set up your own missile launching system. Again, don't use the anvil missile, it's horrible. Anyway, on to the missile part. So there are 3 parts of a missile launcher. There is, and each part has 3 tiers. So there is the missile launcher platform, the missile control panel, launcher control panel, and the missile support frame. Now, and each of these have 3 tiers. So this is the tier 1 missile launch frame, this is the tier 2 missile launch frame, and this is the tier 3 missile launch frame. Again, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1, tier 2, 3, and tier 3. And you can't actually see a difference on the support frame. You cannot see a difference. They look exactly the same. But if I were to grab them in my inventory, you see that this is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Anyway, or T3. T stands for tier. And, of course, it has green, red, blue. Just like the missiles. Green, red, blue. Anyway, what each of these parts do. So, this, of course, the launcher frame, is the part you actually would put the missile in. So if we just grabbed a conventional missile, that was a horrible way of spelling conventional. But if we grabbed a conventional missile and just put that in there, this is what actually holds the missile. And the higher tier, so the basic one, will only has a maximum range. If you only have the tier 1 launcher platform, your missile only has a maximum range of 499 blocks. Or 200. I believe it's actually 299, so around 300. So you have 300 blocks of range with this. With the tier 2, you have around 1,000, I believe. I need to look that up again. I remembered the other day, and now I don't. It's horrible. Anyway, you have around 1,000 on here. And I will definitely let you know about that in a later episode. Stay tuned, and I shall look that up and make sure that I have my information down straight. But I believe it's about 1,000 blocks. And onto this one, this is the tier 3. This will fly, this has a maximum range of 9,999 blocks. So what, 10,000 blocks this has a range of. So, 200, around 1,000, and 10,000. Pretty good, pretty good. The launcher control panel, really, these don't change that much. They don't really affect the missile, but they affect what you can do. So, as you can see, the basic launcher control panel only has X coordinates and Z coordinates. Now, keep in mind, none of the missile control, no missiles require a Y coordinate. No missiles will require a Y coordinate because it simply just fires at that area. And you only need the ground level coordinates in order to get where you want the missile to hit. So there's no y coordinate input, so don't worry about there being no y coordinate. So back to this. The launcher control panel has a x coordinate, and it has, 653 and 680, and as you can see, if I just stand here and you look on my mini map there, or I just hit F3, oh goodness, took a screenshot. Oh goodness, I'm in all the wrong menus today. As you can see, our x coordinate is 653, just like this, and our z coordinate is 680, just like this. Anyway, on to the next one. The launcher control frame tier 2 has 2 more options, as you can see, and it has detonation height and lock height, and as you can see, that didn't have that. Detonation height is kind of like your y coordinate, but don't use it as your y coordinate. What detonation height will do is, say we set that to, was our y coordinate? Our y coordinate is 6. If we set that to, say, 30, oh goodness, it seems not to like that. Interesting. Oh, it's because I don't have a missile set up. Normally what that would do is your missile, you'd input a coordinate into that. Let's say you put 30 in, right? And on 30, so on this level, when the missile had finished its arc and was coming back down, when it hit level 30, it would just blow up, instead of waiting to hit the ground. So if you want to fire a warning shot at your friend, or whoever you're fighting, and you're like, I have antimatter, I will destroy you, you fire one of those, hit the detonation height onto a couple, or like 50 blocks over top their base, fire the antimatter, and it will blow up just over top their base, and they're gonna be like, oh, I better not mess with this guy. Anyway, lock height. Now, past the coordinates, lock height is probably the next most useful thing. Lock height allows you to put your launcher underground. So normally what happens is, say you have your launcher, and you have it in a hole. You don't put it on ground, you put it in underground. And you have a little hole for your missile to fly out. What will happen is, if you have this hole too high, say you have it 4 high, okay? So your launcher is 4 blocks underground. What happens is, when the missile flies up, it will fly straight up for 3 blocks, and then on the 4th block, it will start turning towards its target. So if you have it stacked 4 blocks up, and it's firing in that direction, it will fly up 3 blocks, and then it will try to turn, but it will hit this block right here, and it will blow you up. So you don't want that. If you do not set anything up and leave it as default, the maximum you can put it underground is 3 blocks. But if I were to, say, go have my control panel, if I were to, say, put my lock height at 30, then I could make let's put it at 10. Then I could make a tunnel 10 blocks high, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the missile would fly up 10 blocks until it started turning. So it would start turning at this block and go that way. Of course, if you put 11 blocks up, it would try to turn here, and it would hit this block, and it would blow you up. So make sure, if you're putting it underground, to change that lock height, because if you don't, it will blow you up. Anyway, the last one has a frequency. Now, frequency is something we'll get into later in this episode, but later in this episode. But just remember that the Tier 3 launcher control panel is the only one that has a frequency setting, okay? Remember that. Now, one other thing you'll notice is this stuff down here. So you have inaccuracy, 30 blocks, status, not connected, voltage, and then its voltage. Voltage really doesn't matter that much, don't really pay attention to it, and then how much power it has. So it takes 400 kilojoules to launch a missile. And that's what that says. Voltage, again, don't pay attention to that. Status says it's not connected because there is no frame connected to it. There is no frame connected to this. So it's going to say not connected. And inaccuracy is 30 blocks, which we'll get to later. In a moment. In a moment. Not later, but in a moment. Lastly, you have... Oh, I can't right-click on these. I keep forgetting about that. Lastly, you have the support frame. Now, if you remember correctly, this makes your range higher, okay? This gives you more options the higher your tier is, and this will change your accuracy. So, you can actually fire a missile without a support frame. But that missile will have an inaccuracy of 30 blocks. If you put a tier 1 support frame on it, it will have an accuracy of 15 blocks. If you put a tier 2, it will have an accuracy of 7 blocks. And if you put tier 3, you will have 0 inaccuracy. That missile will hit dead on every time. Now, how to put your launcher together. You have these 3 parts. You're like, okay, I'm ready to go. How do I put it together? Well, this is how. So, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to place down your launcher platform, your control panel, and then, as you can see, the status on this is no longer not connected. It is now insufficient electricity, so we haven't fed it any electricity. This, right now, could launch a missile. But as you can see, its inaccuracy is 30 blocks. So let's grab a tier 1 support frame, and let's put that there. So you always have to put it there. You cannot put it here. This will not up the accuracy. It has to be on that spot. And now, as you can see, the inaccuracy is only 15 blocks. If we were to grab a tier 2, boom! And inaccuracy is now 7 blocks. And now, tier 3, ooh, I accidentally destroyed that. Let's put that back like so. Now, tier 3, inaccuracy, 0 blocks. Perfectly accurate. So let's just grab all these bits, toss our wrench, delete inventory, and grab it back. There we go. So this is what the 3 launchers will look like if you set each of them up. So tier 1, as you can see, 15 blocks, because it's got that tier 1, and this will only launch around 300 blocks. Tier 2, this will launch around 1,000 blocks, and it has 7 blocks of inaccuracy. And tier 3 will launch 10,000 blocks, and has 0 inaccuracy. So, oh goodness gracious, we have put no power in there. Let's just grab an infinite battery, shall we? And let's put that right there. There we go. Okay, pretty good. Now, I will not show launching a missile yet, but that's on that. Now, there's one other way of, well, 2 other ways of launching a missile. This is something called a cruise missile launcher. Now, what a cruise missile launcher does is you can click it, and it has these different things. So it has X, Y, and Z. This is the only missile launcher that has a Y. And it has a frequency. So, and remember, tier 3 is the only one that has the frequency, and remember the frequency for later. So let's say we wanted to aim at this block right here. We're going to go F3. We're going to look at it. This is X 658, Y 7, and Z 691. So 658, 7, 691. 658, 7, 6, 5, 6, 9, 1. So 658, oh goodness, 8, and you see our launcher is changing direction in back. 7 and 691. There we go. As you can see, it has now aimed itself up at that block, and if we were to grab a conventional missile and put that on there, it's got this cool little, thing for it, and it holds the missile, and it would fire, if we were to launch it, it would fire there. Let's turn that off. Now, there are now, oh, goodness gracious, English, Colton. Now, how to launch missiles. So, well, we already know how to launch missiles. This is a radar gun. Now, a radar gun is a little thing that you hold, and you have to charge it up. So we'll just put it in our basic energy cube that has an infinite battery in it, and it's going to charge up. Fully charged, there we go. Now, what a radar gun can do is it allows you to just look at a coordinate and right-click. And it says in our chat, X679, Y3, Z662. And if we were to go over to this block, like so, you'd see it's, if you just cross-reference our map with that, 679, 678, we're pretty close, Y3, and we are slightly taller when it actually scanned the block under our feet, so it would have been correct, we're just tall, and 662, and our coordinate is 665. So it's aiming in this general direction, as you can see. Now, the nice thing about this is you don't have to go back to your launcher and physically put in, okay, my coordinates are 6, 7, 9, and you go in here and you go 6, 7, 9. You don't have to do that. What you can do is once you have saved coordinates and you see that it has saved the coordinates while you hover over it, simply right-click on your launcher control panel. This works for everyone, and it will say Coordinate Information Transferred. As you can see, now it will have 679, 662, same as what is in our chat. 679, 662, and 679, 662. This is now ready to launch. As you can see, it says missile silo empty, and you can also do it on a cruise missile launcher, so just do that, and as you can see, it moves. If we were to aim there, boom, looks pretty cool, boom, it's just moving all around. Pretty cool, right? I do like the cruise missile launcher, it looks very cool. And if you were to, say, put, I think 0, 0, and 0, no, it's, like 999. There we go. So, you can launch it straight up, as you can see, and it breaks a little bit when you launch it straight up. It more looks like it's a launcher platform, and we could launch this easily with a redstone lever. So, each of these, in order to launch them, you would need to put a lever or some sort of redstone signal. You need to input a redstone signal into the launcher control panel. That is how you launch it. So if we were to just stand here and launch this off, you'll hear the sound. And it's off. And that, you can't see it because it's a bit glitched for some reason, but that would have gone straight up. Pretty cool. And just turn that off, and we'll set this back to 0. There we go. And if we were to grab a conventional missile, actually, let's grab a chemical missile. The reason I'm doing chemical is because it does no damage. So, it's good to target practice. So let's just aim out there, shall we? And as you can see, we're just going to right click and it's going to give us the coordinates, and we're going to click there, coordinates transferred, there we go, it's in, and it now says status ready to launch, exclamation mark. So simply flick our lever or turn on your redstone signal, and boom, little bit of lag, oh look at that, flies up, coming back down, and boom! And we've gassed whoever was standing there. We are just so good. There we go. That is how to launch a missile. Now, this is the frequency part. So this is your laser designator. And like the last thing, gotta charge it up. So let's just put it in here for a moment. There we go. It's fully charged. So grab that out. And now, we have a laser designator. So remember the frequency thing? This thing right here? Let's set that to 1. You can set it to whatever you want, but the frequency is for the laser designator. So now, just simply right-click while holding your laser designator onto your control frame panel, and it will say in your chat, laser designator frequency set 1. So before, the frequency was not set on this, and now by right-clicking, it has been set. And now, this allows you to not have to put coordinates in. you can just right-click with this, and it will launch your missile at wherever you right-click. So let's grab a conventional, or no, let's grab a chemical missile. There we go. Very good. Boom. That's pretty good. And our laser designator, frequency 1. Look at our laser designator, frequency 1. We should be all ready to go. Make sure it's ready to launch. There we go. And let's just look out. Is there any cows here? Yes, there's still cows here. So let's do that. We get this epic thing up in the air. And got the countdown. Incoming airstrike. And there we go. Flies out. Got the cool smoke trail. And we're about to poison these cows. Let's back up a bit so we don't get gas, shall we? Then there we go. Those cows are not gonna have a nice day. And that's how you do that. And they're all dead. Awesome. Anyway, that is that. So, yet again, let's toss our wrench, delete inventory, and grab it back. The last thing is very cool. This is the rocket launcher. Now, what's funny is when you put a missile in a... If you put a missile in an item frame, it just sticks out the back like this. It's quite funny. It's a little bit broken. But this is, and if you try to put a rocket launcher in an item frame, it doesn't show up in the item frame, it shows up over top the item frame. But that's the rocket launcher. So, just grab that. And as you can see, it looks pretty cool. And if we just F3'd, ooh, not F3'd, F5'd. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Looks pretty cool, eh? Yeah, you wouldn't want to be fighting me now, would ya? Anyway, we're just gonna... The, rocket launcher also needs energy, so simply put it in your basic energy cube, or whatever energy cube you have, or whatever charging thing you have, and charge it all the way up. Let's grab a missile... Oh, this is just a missile module, so we don't want that. Let's just grab a chemical. Now, the rocket launcher can fire Tier 1 explosives and Tier 2 explosives except for the thermobaric. I do not think it can fire a thermobaric. So it can fire all of these missiles up to this, right here. I do not think it can fire that, but that's something to test. Anyway, once you have some sort of missile anywhere in your inventory, doesn't matter where, simply have it in your inventory and hold your rocket launcher and right click and it will fire the missile. Oh, look at that. And boom! Pretty cool. And because I'm in creative, it didn't use it up, but normally it would. And you can cause quite a lot of devastation with this. Normally it would also be... Oh, it is draining. So as you can see, we've fired off quite a few rockets, and it's already down to 50 kilojoules. So if we were to keep firing, down to 0, we've used up all our power. And as you can see, we can no longer right-click no matter what we do. We can't right-click, and it's not firing missiles. Even though we have a missile, but it's at 0 power, so that doesn't work. And then you just charge it up just a bit again, just charge it up a bit, and you can fire missiles again. Pretty cool, right? Anyway, let's get rid of those, and that is the rocket launcher. Now, this is going to be a bit of a longer episode because I'm going to explain some other bits along with this, with all the missile stuff. On to gadgets and little missile things. This is kind of the bits and bobs, but there will be more later, and that's a blank, that's an empty, whatever. Here is where we will be explaining the homing missile. So let's just put that in our frame, just like that. There we go. Now, in order to use the homing missile, you need to get this item called a tracker. Now, a tracker, by default, I don't know what it points at, actually. I've tried to figure out what it's pointing at whenever you don't have it assigned to something, but I haven't figured it out. It's not the same as a compass. It's just kind of weird. Anyway, the tracker will allow you to track entities. Entities or players. So, mobs, cows, sheep, animals, and players, all that kind of thing. And in this case, we got an iron golem. Poor iron golem. What you do, in order to use the tracker, you're going to go up to your entity or player, and you're going to left click. And it won't damage the whatever you hit, but it will say in your chat, now tracking Iron Golem. And if you look at that little dial, it is now pointing at the Iron Golem, no matter where we go. We can turn backwards, it's behind us, we turn around, and there it is. So you can use that to track people, but even better is if you went over to your missile, now look around that area and right-click. So around the black area, the area over top the fins with black, and it'll say missile target locked to Iron Golem. So now if we look in our X and Y Z coordinate, it will now say the coordinates of that Iron Golem. So 644, 723. Let's go over here. Just make sure that's all perfect. 644, 723. Perfect. And it is locked on, and if that Iron Golem moved, even if it did move, I believe, I'm not sure, but I think that it would still hit the Iron Golem. But it also might just, I do apologize. Forget that little bit of information, that was incorrect. My brain just reminded me that that is wrong. When you do the tracker, it locks on, so if someone moves way over there, it's still going to hit, it's still going to shoot there. But you can, if someone, say, went to their base, and then you track them, instead of having to follow them with the tracker, which is just kind of annoying, you can simply just look at the coordinates in here after you tap on the missile. A little thing to mention along with it is you can ride all missiles. So it's a little bit of a useless thing, but you can actually ride the missile. As you can see, I'm riding a missile. You can do this with all the different types of missiles, and it would seem like it's a bit dangerous, but apparently it's fine. So you can just do that, a boom, a boom. I'm a bit stuck inside this one. My head's a little bit not in the grids of places, but you know, hey, whatever. And last but not least, you can ride all of them. You guys get the point. Anyway, there's our poor Iron Golem. He's all fenced off, and let's launch this missile at him. So, just do a little check. Our missile is locked to the right coordinates. Inaccuracy of 15 blocks because we have the Tier 1 support frame. We're going to be smart, and we're just going to grab a T3. We're going to grab a T3 support frame just so that we know that this will hit dead on target. There we go. And now, if we look, inaccuracy, 0 blocks. Ready to launch. And it's full of power, and it's all good. So, there we go. Let's launch it, shall we? There we go. Flying off into the air. Coming down. Boom! It has damaged our Iron Golem. Now, you gotta remember, they have 100 health. So, that would kill most things. But, not our Iron Golem. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll just grab a quick diamond sword here and just finish him off, shall we? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. So, however much damage a diamond sword does, times 9, and then take that number and subtract it from 100. And that's how much damage that missile did. Again, it's just a conventional missile, so it's not going to do much damage. On to the next thing. So, the next thing is the diffuser and the remote detonator. Now, I've already charged these, but they would normally have, you'd normally have to charge them up in an energy cube, but I've taken the liberty of already charging these, because you guys know how that works, right? Anyway. First of all, we'll look at the diffuser. Now, the diffuser will, when you left-click on a lit piece of TNT or some sort of bomb, it will turn that bomb back into an item. Instead of that bomb exploding, it will defuse that bomb, and it will turn it into an item. So let's just flip the lever, and then left-click, and boom, there we go, we got our TNT. The next thing is the remote detonator. Now, the remote detonator will only work on the condensed explosives. It doesn't work on TNT, and it doesn't work on any of the bigger explosives, sadly. But, I don't need that, but it does work on this. So if you set this up to if you set it up so that when the condensed explosive blew up, it sent some sort of redstone signal to the next explosive, and then blew up all the nukes and everything in the enemy base, you could do that. But what this does is, with your remote detonator, you can be however far away you want as long as you can see your explosive, and you just have to look at the explosive and right-click and it will blow it up. Just like that. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. And I'm just going to toss those down there. We don't care about those. Not going to be like that. Anyway, the next thing is something you've already seen, is the antidote. Now, the antidote cures you from chemical stuff. So if I were just to light off this chemical explosive, boom! Oh, I'm so sick! Oh, I have hunger, weakness, mining fatigue, toxin, nausea. Oh, I'm just feeling horrible. Eat my antidote. Boom! Gives the little bit of effect, and boom, there we go. And they're all gone. Pretty nice, hey? On to the next thing. The next thing is the proximity detector. I had to remember the name for a second. What the proximity detector does is, when you place it down, boom, you can set X, Y, and Z chords, and max and min. Now, min and max really aren't anything. Minimum really isn't anything, so just set them both to the same number. What this will do is, when something comes within that range of it, it will send off a redstone signal. So you put in power, you gotta put in power, and it will constantly use power, very little bit of power, super tiny amount of power, but it will constantly use power. And as you can see, it was insufficient electricity for a moment there. That's a bit of a glitch. And you can get it to target different things, so mobs, all, players, anything, right? So, as you can see, it default starts on all, and our redstone signal, it's outputting a redstone signal, and it's lighting up the redstone lamp. If I were to put it on players, same thing. And if I were to put it on mobs, as you can see, it turns off, because I'm not a mob, I'm a player. Anyway, let's put that back to players. So, now, this is useful for setting traps, or you could set up a door. You could put a door on this so that when you get close to the door, boom, the door opens, and you're good. But say and this has a frequency. Now, the frequency in this is not the same thing as for the laser designator. This is not for missiles. This frequency is for something entirely different. So let's say that you know that your enemy has a couple proximity detectors set up on frequency 7. And you want to be able to get by them. As you can see, when I'm getting close to this, when I'm getting within 3 blocks in every direction, so 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, so if I go 1, 2, 3, and I stand here, it turns off, and I go here, it turns on. That's because 3 and 3, as you can see. But let's say that you know that your enemy has some proximity detectors and you want to get by them. Well, you got to use this thing called a frequency disruptor or signal disruptor. Now, what a signal disruptor does is it will stop that frequency. So, as you can see, I walked in and it still did that. But if I right-click with this frequency, or with the signal disruptor, and I set my frequency to 7, now if I walk up to it, oh, look at that. It's not on because it doesn't detect me. The frequency is the same, so this is disrupting my signal, and I could just walk by, and then I could turn it off. And boom, I've gotten past my enemy's defenses. That's how that works. And while this is on, it will constantly use just a little bit of power. Very tiny amount of power. Yeah. So you gotta recharge it every once in a while, but just can't be careful about that. And let's just put it back to 7. There we go, and we can just walk past. There we go, and boom, we're good. Anyway, that is the proximity detector and the signal disruptor. Next is the glass redstone bits. Now, there are 2 glass redstone things. There is a glass pressure plate and a glass button. Now the glass button is actually seeable, but it's very low seeable. So if you were to put that on like that, that's very, like, you gotta be like looking carefully to see that. And if you were to put that on something like stone bricks or cobblestone, let's grab some cobblestone to see how that. Look at that, and then stone bricks. Okay, that shows up a bit more than the iron. I thought that wouldn't show up as much, but you could put that on glass. No, you couldn't put that on glass because you can't place anything on glass. What am I thinking? But basically, very hard to see, right? Anyway, and not many people use these. They're a little bit useless, but what is useful is the glass pressure plate. Look at that. You see those tiny pixels there? That's a pressure plate. That is virtually unseeable. You could put some bombs under that. You could trap your enemy and they walk over it. Oh no, they've launched off. You could also put that in front of doors if you just don't like looking at pressure plates. If you don't like pressure plates, you're like, ugh, pressure plates. No one likes those. They're ugly. They're just bad, right? You could put some glass ones, and then no one will see them and no one will know, and it's good. Anyway, that and their crafting recipe is very simple. Goodness gracious, I've been in the wrong menu. There we go. Super simple, 2 glass, same as normal pressure plate. Pretty good. Anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. Thank you all so very much for watching. I'm not gonna hit F5 because I'm ashamed of a Steve skin. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope this helps. Make sure to check out the rest of the series in the description, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.